Don't play the intro or anything because I don't want it to go.
No, we're there now.
All right. Sorry about that, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to the Death Clock. It is actually it's running on 8:41 due to technical difficulties.
We start on time.
We've had some interesting technical difficulties. First off, I want to introduce our guest for this evening. We brought in from Privateer Press, far from the West Coast, Privateer Press's #1 man with the paintbrush, Dallas Kemp. Say good evening, Dallas. And hopefully we're gonna have to force him to take his brush out of his mouth from time to time.
We'll ask him important questions.
That's right. And it's all gonna sound like this, which is apparently
that's how I avoid the tricky ones. When you're like, "So tell me about this," I'm like, "Well,
it's amazing." So first things first, we're gonna run through the news real quick, and then we're gonna get into talking to Dallas a lot about the hobby stuff. But we need to talk about the news first because that is what we're supposed to be doing on this here show. So
yeah.
What do we got coming out of Privateer Press this week?
Well, we've got a bunch of new releases. We've got the new Tristan Durant model, which is the full-fledged version of the Junior, but now we're getting the other sculpt, right? Because we had the pre-release ones, and now we're getting the full guys.
Oh, was it two separate sculpts?
I'm not 100% sure.
That's the same sculpt.
Oh, it is the same sculpt? Okay. That's the man who would know.
Yeah.
Fortunately. We have Eye of Truth and the new Hyperion Helios kit, as well as something that's near and dear to your heart, new No Quarter drops this week.
Right, yeah, the new no Quarter dropped. I was pretty excited for this one because it was the OSL painting competition, and being friends with the guys like Yom and Maxime from Quebec, they're like, well, Yom is like the friggin' OSL master, so I kind of aspire to be able to do OSL like he does. And I learned a lot, which is really, really awesome. And because that's really why I do these competitions. I don't do them for trophies or accolades. And that's kind of comes out of the way that the French painting competitions seem to work, is you do it more to just try to challenge yourself. And it was great because I was actually able to go back and forth with Dallas today and get feedback from him. So even though I didn't make it into No Quarter, I got more than my added value on it, which was super awesome. So Dallas, thanks very much for your feedback today. That was pretty cool.
Well, we can talk about that later when I was looking at the questions, and you have some questions about competition, and we can get into that.
Absolutely. We'll talk about that in depth. But you're pretty excited about it, George, because grind.
Yeah, we finally see the new rules for grind. Well, it's been so long. In Mark 1, we had basically the same thing as here. We had grind come out in No Quarter. And then in Mark 2, grind was sort of turned into a board game that did not do particularly well. It was a good source of some interestingly built jacks. And then now we're finally in Mark 3 getting a full grind again with all new teams for all of the factions because, of course, when the original grind came out, it didn't. There were a lot of the factions we have now that didn't even exist.
Well, and you may not know this, Dallas, but George is actually a massive grind fan and forced us all to play grind all the way through Mark 2 with his own janky house rules.
Yeah, I had to build my own.
I can either paint tonight, or I'm more than happy to put together my grind team.
You can do either, man. It's up to you, totally.
What do you all choose? Like I either paint or I convert my grind team up.
I think you should convert a grind team. What were you painting though, Dallas? What were you painting? That's what we want to know. So do we have any other cool news?
I don't think so. Coming out of PP right now,
we did get to see what looks like might be a battle engine for the new faction.
Oh yeah, we did in the as part of the ARG. That if you follow our podcast on Moose Machine on the Facebook page, you'll actually see we always post all the artwork as it goes up, and the new.
It looks like some sort of cart, with a evil looking dude in it.
Thinking battle engine. It could even be like the Tinker, just on a large base.
Man,
but it's what it looks like is basically like Orko from Masters of the Universe, except with a full body and a clapped out nag.
That's who he is. He's Orko.
Yeah,
he just
he's
needs
totally
the big O.
Orko. And it's got a bunch of caskets in the back with an interesting symbol on them. But it looks like an amazing model.
So that hopefully it's a model. We're pretty sure it's a model.
And of course they use "Bring Out Your Dead."
Nice. So that's basically it. And we're not going to use the transitions tonight because they seem to screw up our audio. Whoa, thanks OBS for doing that update. It's just amazing. So we're going to move right to tonight's focus, and because we have Dallas Kemp here with us, we're going to be talking about painting like the pros. You like that?
Or tabletop, like I do at home.
Yeah, or tabletop.
That's what I do at home.
So I guess before we get started, for anybody who's listening to the podcast who doesn't know who you are, Dallas, tell us a bit about yourself and what you do for a living.
Okay. I'm Dallas Kemp, and I am the painting and hobby manager at Privateer Press, which means all painted models and hobby type stuff falls under my
umbrella.
Very cool. So I guess the first question is, what is the official Privateer Press style? How does that work?
How does it? So that's a funny question. Like, what is style? It's like art, right?
Well, I know that Privateer Press kind of when we go to shows with Privateer Press, they sort of talk about their style of blending and the way that most Privateer Press painters they learn how to paint that way when they're great painters when they start, but then they have to use this particular style of blending. Could you tell us a bit about that style of blending and what makes it specific to Privateer Press?
Absolutely. So that is kind of what defines what a Privateer Press model looks like. A Privateer Press studio model looks like really kind of nothing else. We're very poppy, we're very cartoony, but at the same time we're very rooted in the gritty reality of the Iron Kingdoms, right? So when you a lot of very bright colors. So when you look at Khador, it's very poppy and bright, but also it's rusty and it's hard looking, right? When you look at any of the factions, they kind of all epitomize that. And what we do is we use this technique called the two-brush wet blend, which is you use two paintbrushes. One applies the paint, and the other one grabs it with a little lick of your brush, and you tug it out, and it stretches the paint over the top of the surface to get your blends.
So, what are sort of doing this is hard to unless you've taken a course or been able to go to a show where one of you guys is there to teach it. But are there sort of tips and tricks for people who want to get that style? Is there an easy way for you to sort of describe how to do it the first time?
3 things. P3, baby. Patience, practice, and perseverance. That's how everything gets done. Come to a con and talk to me. Come to a con and take one of my classes. Those are the easiest ways because you're right there in my face, right there with me, and I can go over the steps. But it's really about, you have the paint here, lay the brush down, go back and forth, never lifting the paint brush up because that gets into feathering. But you go back and forth, you grab the edge of it, and then you start pulling it back.
Interesting.
So you're just creating a gradation across the surface.
So you're relying on the material that you're pulling back and forth to just pick up a little bit of the pigment and drag it out onto the rest of the model.
And just stretching it out. And a lot of, it's considered a high level technique, but I'm completely convinced that if you can paint a model to tabletop standard, I can teach you how to two-brush blend. My personal armies, I use the technique, but I use it in a more tabletop fashion for speed, because that's one thing that the two-brush wet blend offers that other blending techniques can't. Like one blending technique is layering, where you just do a layer of paint, and then you just slowly change the colors up, up, up. And the more layers you do, the higher the transitional value, the more contrast you create, correct? Makes sense? With the two-brush, I go like this. I have a color, and I put a color here, and I go, and I'm done. I create all that transitional color in one step. And it's super, super fast. So you can actually take that and tabletop it where, like, I don't care about my transitions as much. I don't care how smooth my blends are at home. I can kind of relax and just kind of free flow and just let the paint kind of happen and just blend very, very quickly to get my army on the table so I can play a game. Whereas in the studio, I get days to work on something.
Is it important to have a very high density pigment? Like, are the P3 paints, because that's the style that P3 uses, are the P3 paints like a really heavy pigment so that you can do that? Or can you basically sort of do it with anything?
Our paints, the P3 line, is designed for this technique. This is basically our technique. Way back in the day, Ally McVeigh was the studio painter, like when we first started, and she kind of created this technique. It's kind of, or not her in particular, but like she's kind of one of the founders and like developers of it. But it's like, that's like our technique. And so the paint line is actually designed around it. We do have a high pigment value, and it's kind of interesting, like being there and learning about the paints themselves. They're like super old school, like generations of family designed paint line, right?
Yeah.
And like the pigment is super, super, super refined. It's been crushed and crushed and crushed to these super, super fine granules. And that is what allows our paint to do what it does. Artistically, there's also a lot of undertones in our paints. Great Coat Gray, there's like a blue undertone. Whereas if you stretch out like Iron Hole Gray, it's a little more of a green undertone. And by playing with those undertones with that blend, so like imagine we were just talking about Eye of Truth, right? Mm-hmm. That model's dope. I love that model. Amazing. It's one of my most favorite Protectorate models. But if you look at that, it's got the Protectorate white base. And what you do is by blending up Crick's Bane highlight, you get all of these like color variations where you get almost like an infinite number of colors being created on that one panel. And that's what gives Protectorate that look in particular.
Yeah. Now in the Forces of books, I've seen that white that you're talking about, the way they build up that up with the 2-brush blending, and it really gives a very deep color to the white. I know that sounds weird, deep white, but
no, that's exactly it though.
When you're doing that kind of the 2-brush blending, do you basically put on the color that you're going to blend directly out of the pot and then thin it out on the model, or are you thinning it just like you would for anything else?
So everything, that's a really good question. Everybody asks me how much you should thin a paint, and there's no real answer to that. There's no ratio. I can't tell you, 2 drops of moldy ochre and a drop of water will give you the perfect coverage. It doesn't work. I live in the Pacific Northwest, and I used to live in Missouri. Missouri is terribly humid, and the Pacific Northwest, even though we have a lot of rain, we're actually not that humid. So the water content in the air or the temperature in the air actually changes the amount of water. The 2-brush technique itself needs very little thinning. You can actually pretty much, I load my brush. Okay, I'll give you an example. Mm-hmm. We got a camera here, right? Let's use it. So like, I might put like a little paint on my brush.
Okay, yeah.
Can you see that?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then I'll just barely, I know you can't see this, but maybe we can do this. Let me see if I can do it with the camera. I just barely like tap. And that kind of gives me, let's get some light on this.
So you're sort of loosening up the paint a bit with just by tapping the brush into the water?
Just a tip, just a little tippity tap, right? Because you're just, like you said, the word loosen the paint is the perfect way to say it. You're just loosening up the paint. You're not wanting it thin, but you're wanting just a loose paint. Of course, as you practice, you can learn like different, like if I loosen it up, I can kind of get this effect, or if I keep it a little thicker, I can get this effect. Mm-hmm. Also, like sometimes at work, when the vent kicks on above me, I kind of got to like loosen it up a little bit more because of the temperature variation or something like that. So it's mainly about playing. It's mainly about messing around and just working with it and getting a feel for it. I know it's kind of wishy-washy. It's so artsy, right? Get a feel for the paint.
It's not really, though.
I need a beret when I say that.
It's not really, though, because, I mean, it's one of the things that basically, I mean, I always recommend everybody takes a painting course if you want to make it to the next step, if you want to go, even if you want to get up to those tabletop standards that you see people and you're like, how is that tabletop? Like, my tabletop is so different. But if you want to get up those, the best way to do it is to take a course from somebody who's got more experience than you. Mm-hmm. That's, I mean, it's
absolutely.
It's as simple as that. I mean, I don't know how many times I've talked to guys who I consider the best painters out there. Like, so James Craig, who's a good friend of the show, he's won multiple friggin' Crystal Brush Awards. He's won P3 competitions. He's amazing. He's excited about the 2 courses he's taking this summer.
Yeah. Well, it is so different. And by the way, James occasionally does courses himself in Kingston. If you can get in on one of those, do it. It's worth every penny.
But part of that, the reason why I brought that up is part of it is because taking those courses, it is a wishy-washy art. Like, it's something you need to watch, and there's so many slight variations, and you need to practice.
Well, and one of the things about that is there's so many of these techniques that is so blatantly obvious when you see someone physically doing it in front of you, and even when you're seeing a YouTube video or something, you don't quite get exactly the same thing.
No, you need the sensei around, really.
Yeah, exactly.
As our friend Ben would say.
Having a teacher really, really helps because, like, I mean, the one thing I've learned by teaching classes is, and taking a lot of classes and asking a lot of sometimes really dumb questions of people who know more than me, is like a lot of times teachers don't realize like their hand movements, they might be like these little tiny subconscious hand movements that they're doing. And so they don't know how to explain it because they don't actually know they're doing it. But then you watch them do it and you're like, what is that? What's that little thing there? And they're like, oh, yeah. Oh, interesting. That must be what does this, right?
Right. So to move into sort of a different vein and talk about
I just lost your audio.
That's all right.
We're still hearing you.
We're still hearing you. Can you hear us again?
I got you now.
Perfect.
Awesome.
All right. So the next question is, we had Doug Hamilton on a few weeks ago. We know that you guys are, work together quite often, that he does the 3D modeling and then,
Doug's my hero.
So when we talked to Doug about making the 3D models, can you sort of pick it up from where you take the models? So let's say, it's gone into, it's gone, the first casting has been done. It's been handed to you to do the first paint job. How does that whole thing work out?
So we get a cast, we get a model, and so there's 2 painters, there's me and there's Brendan, and we go to the concept art, right? So there's a piece of art that is concepted for the sculptor. The sculptor uses that for sculpting. And then I'll go to the colored version and kind of look at it. And then the very next thing I go to is the Forces books. And I know that sounds crazy, but like Protectorate, just staying on the theme of Protectorate, like I go to that recipe on Protectorate White and I just go over it one more time in my head because that recipe is the exact recipe I used for the Eye of Truth, the Avatar, the new Avatar resculpt. Like that's the exact same recipe that I used on those models, that procedure. So I go to that, and I kind of look at it and refresh my brain because I might have just got done painting, 6 Kid or Warjacks or something crazy like that. So I need that refresher sometimes. And then I'll go get a model out of I'll get a studio model and I'll put it on my desk as like another point of reference. So now I have a studio model that's already been painted. I have the concept art and I have this new model to paint, and then I just kind of go from there.
So that's interesting. Reference material being so important to to artists in general.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's interesting.
Absolutely.
Your reference material is what other, what you've done or what other painters have done. So everybody
or even real life stuff, right? Like sometimes like I want a different type of wood grain. we'll go online and I'll just Google like old wood, right? Or I want a certain color of, this or that. I'll go and look at how that looks in real life and try to mimic it on the model. Like if I want to do some special metal technique or something like that, I'll go and look at it online and use real world references. I might have like 3 or 4 Google bars open of just different pictures just to get me in that right mindset or right color combination or whatever it takes to get there. I'm looking at something to replicate it.
Well, and I think that goes to all the painters out there that are starting out or in that mid-level stage. Don't feel bad about using other people's work as reference while you're learning how to do things. And if you're trying to figure out how to do a white, don't feel bad about using a model from a picture of a model from Privateer Press to figure out how they achieve that. Don't feel bad about going to the Forces book because that's what the pros do.
I do it. Exactly. I do it. Yeah, it's right. It's right there. The information is right there. It's literally at your fingertips. The recipes are there. The inspiration is there. I mean, I spent years just specific before I got hired, just trying to copy what the Privateer Press style was and trying to perfect it without any real tutelage and just figuring it out because I figured if I knew how to do it, I'd have a better chance of getting a job.
So this may be weird, but once you've painted the model at the shop, are those models sealed like we all do? Because we're all using them as playing pieces, but I assume at the shop they basically have to sit in a case and then be pulled out when you need, an action shot or something like that, for a box art or something. But do you seal them? Are they,
yeah. Absolutely. I kind of do my home models the same way. I'll just give them a dull coat. Because remember, one of the things I'm painting the model for is for a photograph, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like on the box or online, that's a photograph. So the big thing is by using a layered dull coat, it takes all the metals and kind of dulls them down just a touch, right? It just kind of tones them all down. And then I can go back and just do the edges like with Quicksilver, or I'll take a little radiant platinum, mix it with a little solid gold. I'll put it right on those little tiny, like on a Cador dude, the little stars or something. I'll put like a little bit on the edges of that. And it actually makes it look more, the word I like to use lately is metallosity.
Yeah.
It gives it more metallosity. It's just like I love painting metals, right? So we try to do like a true metallic metal. So it's like non-metallic metal philosophy, but using true metallic paints.
Okay.
So if you look at the metals on a Privateer Press model, it actually goes down to opaque. The shadows are actually opaque.
Mm-hmm.
But then by 2-brush blending, I can blend an opaque paint up and over the metallic. And as it blends over, I get more and more metallic color. So I'm actually creating this level of metallosity on a surface. Then by dulling it down and adding like a Quicksilver or a radiant platinum or some mix of that and a yellow, you get this even higher contrast. So you're going from like this dull, opaque shadow to this super, super, super sharp, highly reflective edge, and it just creates this huge area of contrast and just looks way better for the camera.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people at the lower level of painting, which I count myself quite within, to that kind of ignore the wonders of color over metallic, where you paint a metallic and then you paint some kind of
beautiful
color over it, and it comes out with amazing look, and it's so easy.
I actually learned that from the Rhett Forces book to use PP ink, inks to create really interesting blue and blue sheens on metal, basically.
Yeah,
which is cool. So let's talk a bit about what you do to prepare a model for painting. Do you have like some guy whose job it is to trim all the flash off and stuff over the studio? Like his name is Norm, and he's like the flash. No, they make you do that. Oh,
and now they're making.
Do you need a guy that comes over and just so tell us about model preparation? Now, what are your steps for model prep?
The worst part is now they're making him do it on camera too.
So I mean, one of the biggest things to like as a professional miniature painter, I have to actually be a professional hobbyist as well. I get models and they're in pieces, and they might be resin, they might be hard plastic, they might be the soft plastic or restic as the community calls it. They might be metal, they might be a hybrid. Like I get every type of material that we use, I have to work with. And so I have to clean mold lines. I have to trim flash. I have to, fill gaps. Like every gap you got, I got a version of it too, right? It's basically kind of the same model. Like a master isn't a master. Like I love that word. Like people go, oh, well, Dallas gets to paint a master. Well, that just means the first one out of the box. Like it's not really some paragon of, ultimate model. It's still a model, and it's still got to be put together. Like that's the core fundamental of this hobby is these are model kits that have to be put together. So mold lines, gaps, like all that happens, and I got to cover them too. I do the same hobby and everybody else does.
I know the guys on the chat are dying to ask some questions, so I'm going to go over to Maelstrom. Let's try to knock a couple of these out before these guys explode.
Yeah, they're chomping at the bit here.
So what do we got?
We got a question from Drakios' Dragoon. How quickly does it take you to paint a model, Dallas? Like both one that comes down the line from PP that it's going to get some fancy pictures taken, and just on your own for tabletop?
On my own tabletop. So to me, tabletop level isn't like a level. It isn't like how good something looks. To me, tabletop is fast.
Right.
So my rule of thumb is 3 hours a project. So if it's a Warcaster, 3 hours. If it's a unit of 6, not 10, unit 6 is a project in my head, 3 hours. If it's a War Beast, 3 hours. Like that's kind of my zone I want to shoot for. That's my tabletop, is fast. Now, the better you get, the more you can put into that 3 hours, or the more tricks the more you can get out of that 3 hours. But to me, it's like, tabletop just means fast. It's not a level of goodness. At work, I think my average is about, I would say 3 days per project. Probably.
So the same thing, it would be a Warcaster or a unit of 6 would be the same type of thing? Or
yeah,
do you
sometimes
like spend
solos can go really fast. I can knock a solo out in like a day and a half sometimes. Or, of course, colossals take much longer. Like
take forever, yeah.
Next audience question. What do we got?
Archimedes is wondering, I don't know if you did aim on Dallas, but he's kind of wondering if you know the model. Amon's kind of got the very defined musculature. Is there
that was way before my time.
Yeah. Is there a technique that you use for musculature like that? Like
to get the abs to pop?
To get them popping abs.
To get the guys buff?
Yeah.
You gotta juice it, man.
Abs.
You gotta go to the gym like every day. You gotta like put in your hours, man. That's what you got to do.
So the first thing you do is use reference. So you look at yourself in the mirror.
Yeah.
Because that's what one ab looks like.
So I did this beautiful paint on Resheth.
6-pack, baby.
Yeah. That's how I was able to do my beautiful Resheth painting.
Yeah, you just used yourself as reference.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Beautiful, man.
Reference. That guy. I mean, tabletop or studio. Studio, I would probably. I'd probably base coat him, and then I would do like a wash of scorn red, thinned down with a little Midland flesh, and then use a little Baldress green mixed with Midland flesh and glaze over that. And that kind of gives you that skin tone. Because if you look at humans, there's a lot of green in our skins. And then I would blend a very light highlight on each ab. That'd probably be, I wouldn't do too much around that because that would get me a lot of definition there just by shading and highlighting those. Tabletop, wash that sucker, boy.
Just do some washes.
Throw some wash on there.
Maybe a little dry brush.
Yeah.
So how we'll skip the color palettes because I wanted to ask about in cases like Fiora 3, when you guys do things like OSL, when do you choose to do OSL and when do you choose to not do OSL? Because like Fiora 3 doesn't really seem to have a lot of OSL on it, whereas a lot of the other models that come out of the studio do, such as like Horgel, for example. When is that choice made?
Does Horgel have the Horgel 1 or 2?
2. Horgel 2 has some. He has got like the big burning axe, and there's some solid OSL and sword in there. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a little OSL on his head, right?
Yeah.
Because y'all use an OSL as object source lighting, like the light that's not part of the light source, right?
Right.
Okay, so I know. Okay, so Brendan painted both those. On white models, it's particularly hard to get a good OSL, right? Because it's white, and if I put yellow over white, it just
yellow.
It's a little trickier. Yeah. You painted yellow. Good job. Horgo is a little easier because he's got that. It's a little darker. He's got that blue skin tone, so that yellow's gonna pop out. That kind of stuff is really kind of up to the painter to some extent. Like, if I feel like it's going to work, or I feel like the project itself is going to lend itself to some OSL, I'll do a little. But if I feel like it might come off wrong, or like the colors around, like maybe I made some color choices like on some fur, I'll be like, it might be a little tricky. So it's really kind of up to the painter.
All right, next question. What do you consider your personal signature on when you work on a model? What makes it a Dallas model, and do you sneak a little of that into your PP work?
Oh, I mean, there's a beard hair on every base.
Excellent.
I mean, obviously. I don't know what my personal style is. Ron, y'all know Ron Cruzy?
Yeah,
he's old school,
we've
right?
seen his work, yeah.
He's always making fun of me because I'm like super, like he says I have a shadow demon. So when I paint, I tend to like kind of overdo my shadows. And so sometimes there's a little bit of like me going, I gotta fix this. Because I don't know, there's something about like a very shadowy and like, because it gets very dramatic, right? You get a very dramatic look. My personal Cato army is like super shadowed, and then the highlights are super bright, and it just makes it all pop out a little bit more. So my personal style is overshadowed.
Shadow demon. That's your style.
Shadow demon.
Hashtag shadow
my
demon.
Style shadow demon.
You're just gonna make it a thing now. Like hashtag shadow demon. It's my new style, yo.
Exactly. It like goes right up against like a water antelope.
There you go. So the last question for the PP pros: when you guys are bringing in new studio painters or contracting stuff to other painters to finish up, what is it that you look for in a potential studio painter? What's that like when you're doing the review process? What do you look for?
Somebody who's trainable, right? I came into the studio personally. I didn't quite understand two-brush blending, but Ron said he could teach me. He's like, I know I can teach you. So that's kind of what you look for, is like, somebody that can be taught the style and work with the style, that two-brush blend. And the other big trick is like, I got to replicate, like as a studio painter, you're replicating 12 years worth of paint jobs. So like you have to be able to constantly, you have to be somebody who can constantly look at the past but work in the future kind of, right? And like, so this is what Signar looks like, and I got to replicate that style. I have to replicate that Signar's armor, but I want it to look like my Signar armor, but it still has to look like Signar armor, and it's part of the army. Because I'm just an army painter when you think about it. Like I paint 13 armies over a huge spans of time, but I'm an army painter, right? I paint Kador, and I paint Signar, and I paint mercenaries, and I paint minions, and I paint Circle. and it's just adding to the army that's already been established by the other painters.
Theme must be followed, so to speak. All right. We're gonna take
something to be said about cool looking army on theme.
Exactly. I mean, well, we've been kind of beating people's heads about that for the last few years. So
Absolutely.
let's do a couple more audience questions, and then we'll move to tonight's roundtable. What do we got there, Jason?
All right. We got from Dracula's Dragoon a question about doing highlights and shading on white and black armor.
Do you have any tips?
Are there tips? Or is there...
Yeah, don't paint white, don't paint black.
But
Which
my
goes to
immortals-
Bilak's question:
Yep.
Is the Rhett paint scheme made to make new painters hurt?
Yeah.
Okay, so okay, so painting white. So painting white. Let's do that one. So painting white. Choose a cool white or warm white. So prime examples of those is Protectorate and Retribution. Protectorate's a warm white. Retribution's a cool white. Don't go for this pot, right? Morrow white.
Mm-hmm.
You don't start here. This is not where you start. You need to tone that down, and the majority of a white armor plate is actually not white. And you can actually look at this once again with real world references. Next time you're at the hobby shop, next time you're at the game store playing a game and the guy's wearing a white shirt, or just look around your house and, I have white walls, right? Well, you can't really see, but I have white walls. But if you single out the actual colors, there's very little white. Same way with a t-shirt. There's very little white. The Zerkova poster behind you guys, she has a white hat. Everybody would say that's a white hat. But if you single out the colors, I'm seeing a red and blue and gray, and there's a little touch of green. There's some sanguine mixed in there. Looks like maybe something equivalent to like a Crixbane base. And then there's the white. So white is actually a reflection of every color coming back to your eye. So you actually have to have all those colors in there. You leave the Morrow white for just the edges. That helps out a lot. There's always somebody's going to say, well, there's this one time you can do it like this. Of course there is. There's always an exception to the rule. But the rule of thumb is don't go pure white. Black is the same way. Like majority of the surface should be pure black, and then just highlighted with your warm or cool black, like warm black, like Retribution black leather. That's a very sanguine base, great coat gray mixed in to create a very little bit of highlight. Whereas like something like Protectorate uses Frostbite mixed into Thamar black to create this very cool edge black lining. So it's just the black is the majority black, white is majority not white.
There you go, guys. Did you get that?
Yep.
All right. I mean, one of the things that's interesting. I mean, I'm kind of addicted to coal black. It's like
dude,
it's like my
everything gets it.
yeah,
I
everything
love
gets well.
coal
So I took a painting course from Meg Maples a couple of years ago, and her whole thing was sanguine base. I put that shit on everything.
Sanguine base is a good color, man.
I feel
God.
I'm like between that and coal black. I have gone through one pot of umbral umber.
Yeah.
And like 4 pots of sanguine base in the last year.
No. You got to tap into that umbral.
Oh, the umbral
man.
umber is like, but then there's like, though I haven't even gone through a pot of anything else. So it's, like it's a pretty even, yeah. Umbral umber is pretty much your go-to for your browns too. Last question from the audience, and then we'll move into the.
Do you have a favorite faction to paint, Dallas?
I really, really, really actually enjoy painting Retribution.
Okay.
There's something about painting that white that is almost like Zen-like to me. Like it's getting these really cool blue white blends. I think Protectorate as well. I really love painting Protectorate, and I think it shows sometimes. Like Eye of Truth and Avatar once again. Like oh man, I love painting those models so much, man. Those are so good.
You've asked the right question.
Yeah.
that got points.
It's so good.
So
Scoring's fun. I actually like see everything. All the factions have like this thing that makes them fun, though, right?
Right.
Like Scorn, I love painting Scorn. because I just dry brush everything silver and I dry brush everything gold. And then I paint the red in between. Yay, I'm done. And it's really fun and quick. Circle, I love painting circle because you got all the browns, you got all the greens, you got these very earth tones, and you get to play with the earth tones. Trolls, you got cool faces, you got Brian Dugas sculpts, you got these cool characterful dudes with lots of like little doodads, you got some pouches, and you got buckles, and you got belt straps and all this stuff. Every faction has something to offer that's very interesting if you just look for it.
Yeah, I'm going to pretend you already said Legion.
Legion.
Nobody
so
likes
good.
Legion.
It's so good.
We've seen Azrael. He's freaking gorgeous.
Yeah, he is.
Oh my God. So that guy is so much fun to paint, by the way.
Oh,
That
man.
guy's so much fun to paint.
He looks amazing, Dallas.
We're gonna go tonight's roundtable. Tonight's roundtable, we're basically going to draw information out of Dallas for his life story, and we're gonna talk a bit about how to take. We want to talk a bit about competitive painting and how to get there. So let's start with the hardest question of all: your life story. How did you become the painter you are today? Where was your painting start, and how did you get to where you are?
So the earliest model I remember painting was probably in fourth grade. And I took do y'all remember the TV show A-Team, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah.
So I took the A-Team van, and I took that kit, and I tried to make it an A-Team van spaceship by using another model kit of I don't even remember what brand, I don't even remember what kind of spaceship, but I tried to combine the two and paint it black. So it had like black spaceship wings, and like the back doors were open. It had like the shuttle rocket boosters sticking out. Just the back doors were open. That doesn't even make sense, right?
No, but it sounds like something the A-Team would build.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. This is like, this is a plan that's going to come together nicely.
It'd be like, I'm not getting on that. And then Murdoch would feed him a hamburger and he'd fall aslep.
Wake
And
up
the
in
next thing you
space.
know, they're A-Team in space.
That's right. That's how that whole story goes. So the development, you went from there to?
Just painting models, just painting everything I could get my hands on, right? I always wanted to do art, and I started out like trying to draw comic books, and I'm not very good at that at all. I tried to make movies, and I'm even worse at that. And I tried some other artistic endeavors like painting on canvas and being artistic, and I'm like, nah, I'm not very good at that either. And so I just kept painting models as a hobby. And I went to a convention. I met Ron Cruzy, and he was just like, you're all right. Maybe you should try this. And like I walked away from that just like, ooh, I'm going to show you next time. And so and then that gets into competition painting. So for me personally, competition painting was never competing against anybody else. Competition painting was purely competing against me. It was me showing myself and Ron and Matt DiPietro, like what I could accomplish, what I could do. So every time I saw them, I'd show them a piece and they'd be like, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. And then the next piece, I'd fix all those problems. And then show it to them and they'd be like, okay, so you fixed that. That's cute. Now this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. And I just kept pushing myself and pushing myself. Excuse me. Always competing against myself, always trying to get better than the last one. Not caring about anybody else's placement, not caring about the grand prize, not caring about any of that. Just caring about learning from somebody who knew something more than I did and pushing myself to be better than I was last time.
Okay.
Like I got a model on my desk, or I did have for a little bit. I took it down recently. But I had a model on my desk from like 1992. And this thing is bad, dude. Not a good model. Not a good paint job. But it was like that reminder of like I always tell people, they're like, oh, I messed up this. I didn't do a very good job on this, so I'm going to strip it. And I'm always like, don't strip it. Put it in your army and play with it. And then that way, 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, you can compare the two and look at where you came from. And you have this like high watermark. You got these watermarks where you can see your growth, where you can track your growth, and you can point out, like, trust me, it's nothing more fun than pulling out a really bad paint job and showing it to your friends.
So yeah, you're talking about you're entering competitions. How important is it to enter competitions or to win competitions, that type of thing, as you're growing?
I guess that depends on your goal, right? For me, it was important because it was something to judge myself against, right? It was something for me to judge myself against. Like if I got a bronze, and the next time I got a bronze, I knew I wasn't doing something right, and I had to adjust, and I had to listen more carefully to what Ron had to tell me, or Matt had to tell me. Winning competitions, I don't think is that important. I know you mentioned earlier the French style of competitions, right? And that's actually the P3 style of competitions. We do the same kind of competition style. We give everybody who deserves a gold gets a gold. Everybody who deserves a silver gets a silver, and everybody who deserves a bronze gets a bronze. Out of the golds we pick, or out of each category we'll pick a winner, and out of all the categories we'll get a grandmaster. But if you've earned a silver, you're going to get a silver medal, right? So our European style, our P3 is the European style of judging. Everybody gets, so you're judging against yourself, and to me that's the most important part of competition painting, is being able to see other people and what they've done, like, and not like, oh, you did this and I didn't do that, I'm not as good as you, but more like, oh, that's interesting, share that idea with me, and I'll share my idea with you. It's all about the exchange of ideas and the community and working together so everybody becomes a better painter.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this before on the show too. We talked about it quite a bit with James. What's interesting about that style of competition is and people can be a little bit critical of it because they're like, well, it's like giving everybody a medal for showing up, and that's not true. You still you still have to get to the bronze level to get your first bronze. But what's really interesting about that style of competition is, as you mentioned, you're constantly fighting yourself, if that makes sense. Like when I go to another competition, I'm not trying to get I don't want to beat Yom, for example. What I want to do is I want to beat my last competition. I want to go from bronze, I want to get a silver, or at least want to get another bronze. You know what I mean? I'm fighting myself. And that makes it so that what I'm doing when I'm at competition is walking around that room and talking to other painters. I'm not sitting there like trying to hide and I've got this year I'm going to pull out the best thing ever that'll screw everybody up. I'm not doing that because I don't care about that. I care about going and seeing what everybody's techniques are and picking up new and interesting ideas. And I think it just fosters a more social community, and that's what's awesome about miniature painters in general.
As someone who occasionally has to organize painting competitions, not necessarily judge them, but at least get those rules out there, is there somewhere that PP publishes those rules, like the sort of how a painting competition like that is won or run?
The only thing that we put out is like the general rules for, like, if you look at Lock and Load, or you look at, was that me or you? Nobody messages me. If you look at like Lock and Load or Gen Con or even Smog Con coming up next month, wherever we have a Grandmaster, we publish rules. And like the, what the categories are and stuff like that. Like, so that's pretty easy to find. You can find it on our front page. We
could probably get in. What I can do is we can get in one of the guys from Quebec that runs that style of competition, because they do it all the time. And like we've got a couple of guys in the OGWC who do it. We can get them in, and they can probably run us through how they do their placement, because there are years when they don't even give away gold, if that makes sense. Like nobody gets a gold.
Because was that more of your question, like how it's judged, or the painting competition rules?
Well, both basically, because the painting competition rules are really important, but what is more important for me is just how it's judged.
How it's judged. That's a really hard question, because I think every judge kind of looks for something, right? Mm-hmm. And I mean, even even like in the P3 Grandmaster, we have judge's choice where I'll give a medal to somebody who I just think their idea is rad. Like I'm like, that's just rad. That's an awesome model. You did a really cool job on that. Like it might not be the most technically advanced, paint job in the world, but their idea is really, really, really cool. I think every judge kind of looks for something different. I don't look for perfect blends. I don't look like I'm looking for contrast. I can't give away all this.
Hey, all the secrets.
No, I was just looking for generalities here.
Yeah, I mean, cleanliness is the biggest one for me, man. If it's clean, that's a huge thing for me. It's clean. Not means that doesn't mean you can't have battle damage and mud splatter. I just mean like the tidiness, like the brush control.
Excellent.
So let's go back to you. What are some of who are some of your major influences? You've talked about some of the influences that you've had from Privateer Press, with Matt and those guys. Sorry, this is George's chat. Tell your wife to stop texting you. So who are some of your influences in the miniature community, and so that it's always cool because I like to be able to go check out those people tomorrow. Who are your go-to people
in the miniatures community? Oh man, who do I? Of course, anything by Massive Voodoo, right? Like I love their stuff. Like it's very artistic and stuff like that. I find that very interesting. I don't have names, but I'm starting to become real fascinated with like scale model like work.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And try to like incorporate a little bit of that into like what I do. In general art, oh my God, Mike Mignola, dude, that guy. I want to paint something like that on a miniature, right? That Mike Mignola Hellboy style on a miniature would be cool.
So when you're looking, I know artists go through the whole funk every now and then where you kind of have a hard time getting inspiration and you just kind of shut down for a little bit. Is there anything you do, Dallas, like to get that inspiration back when you kind of just don't feel like, you get in one of those funks?
At work or home?
Both.
At work, I just go, I'm getting paid.
Yeah. That works every time.
I'm getting paid to paint. I get paid to paint more dollars.
It's a job. I get up in the morning and I drink my coffee and I go to work, right? The funk. I like this. So going back to Hellboy. So like, Rasputin tells Hellboy, like, if you know the name of the demon, you have the power of the demon and all that. And he knows his Hellboy's real name. I like to say that the same thing holds true for the muse, right? And I know the name of every muse ever. And her name is just laziness. Which isn't necessarily true, but it's a fun joke. All right. Sometimes you just gotta walk away and read a comic book or read a book or look at real life stuff, like take a hike, play a video game, but just don't allow yourself to that become the norm, right? That don't let that become the thing. Sometimes you just got to walk over. What I personally find very, very good is if I'm like, I don't want to paint. I'm just not feeling in the mood. If you just come over and you pick up a model, like a Grolar or whatever, or this Doom Reaver unit attachment, the Grey Lord unit attachment, and just start putting paint on it, or just start putting your model together. 15 minutes of you just doing it, the next thing you know, it's going to be 2 hours and you're going to be like, oh no, where'd my night go?
Yeah.
You just got to walk over and just start doing it, and it'll just, that alpha stream will just start happening for you and you'll just get right into it.
Nice.
So
also, Jaws helps. I don't know, but sometimes you just got to watch Jaws.
I love Jaws.
Little Jaws action gets you going.
That's awesome.
I actually, whenever this happens to me, Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Oh, that's your go-to.
I always stick that on because the movies are so bad that often you don't want to look at the screen.
Well,
and the jokes are good whether you're looking at the screen or not often.
I've said this before. because I've watched Star Wars the original
Yeah.
number 4 like a bazillion times. It's like music to me now. So when I'm in a really hard editing, so if I'm making a full length television series and I'm just like, I can't edit anymore. You throw Star Wars on because it's like music, and you can zone in and zone out, and it just gives you that little bit of fluidity.
Yeah.
So
that's actually I got my kid makes fun of me, and he knows it's funny because he knows if certain movies are playing, he knows what I'm doing because I have my painting movies. So if he knows if he'll come walking in and goes, I heard Big Lebowski, so I know you're painting. Or,
makes sense.
but I got my 10 or 12 movies that are my painting movies.
That's awesome.
So I think we'll use this as our last question, and then we'll go our last couple of questions because they kind of go together, and then we'll go into the lightning round for this evening. What are some of your favorite model? Oh, sorry, that's blah blah blah.
What?
What faction do you play, and why? And what's your favorite faction? What are you playing right now?
What am I playing right now? Redacted.
Awesome.
Oh, it's Redacted. Oh, interesting.
I'm hoping to enjoy Redacted this summer.
Yeah.
What is your personal color scheme for your
Redacted?
It doesn't have to be the Redacted. What is tell me about one of your armies and what's your color scheme? Because you're big on the hashtag, your army your way. So what is your army your way?
Absolutely true. Your army your way. So I'll give you all my factions. My primary faction is Khador, and over the years it has gone from red to white to red to white. I have flip-flopped, much to the benefit of my friends.
Yeah.
Because I'm done with red. Here, time to paint white. I'm done with white. Here, time to paint red. So currently my Khador is white. I recently painted up a Victor to add to my Khador, and it's all done white. And the style is very loose. It's very beat up. It's very battlefield oriented. Here's a Spriggan actually for my army. You can see he's just
Beat up.
That's a terrible picture, isn't it? How's
that guy has seen some stuff.
Shit.
He's
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all very loose. My Crix army is all pirate themed. Everything has to do with pirates. It's got double Krakens. If you do a Google search, I'm sure you can find them. I sculpted the front carapace of both my Krakens as old wood planks with a figurehead underneath the cannons.
Yeah, I've seen those. Those are gorgeous.
Thank you. And they got barnacles and ropes and everything is very pirate themed. My Gators is all Maylock, so I want to do all zombies. Everything is a zombie. That one's taking a little bit longer to get into. Mercenaries, I got mercenaries. I want to start a Scorn army so bloody bad. The Siren Song of Retribution is there. I got some ideas for conversions. I got ideas for a paint job. I just haven't committed to it yet.
You're all in there.
Dougie Hams is always trying to get me to start Legion.
Well, there you go.
Everything.
Somebody
I
else?
want to paint it all.
So he's the other guy that plays Convergence. So
Yeah, well, there had to be somebody.
There's two of you now.
Oh, poor
Oh man, I got some
Poor
ideas for Convergence too. Oh.
All right. We're going to end that off because, literally, this show could go for another 4 hours.
Yeah.
But we're not going to do that because we try to keep it to that hour-long length.
Yep.
It's only 6:30 here. I'm good.
I'm good for another couple hours. So, Dallas, this is your first lightning round.
Mm-hmm.
The lightning.
Oh no.
The lightning.
This is where I screw up.
It's all good. It's all good. So the lightning
Can't
round.
screw up worse than we do.
Yeah,
That is not possible.
You're fighting against the two best people. I'm just kidding.
I like that look. He's like, are they
Opposites
going to
day.
kill me?
So the way the lightning round works is I'm going to ask 10 trivia questions. You just have to buzz in if you know the answer. By buzzing in, you just need to make a loud noise like bing bong, whatever you want to say. I will choose the person that I think buzzed in fastest.
Or just randomly.
Or
pick one.
sometimes randomly because I don't like you. So
never get to answer.
I'll never win.
Aww. Question number 1. What is Fiora 3's full name on her card?
Nobody knows.
Nobody.
I'll make a noise.
Go for it. What do you think it is, George?
Fiora 3, My Little Fiora.
My Little Fiora is incorrect, sir. No, it's Fiora the Conquering Flame.
Oh, yeah.
Fiora the
Hail the Conquering.
Hail the Conquering Flame. All right. Question number 2. What range?
I just paint them. I don't make the rules.
Question number 2. What ranged weapon do the Thorn Gun Mages use? What is the name of their range? Oh, Dallas.
Mage locks.
It is the Mage Lock, but I was looking specifically for the Dual Mage Lock. The Dual Mage
Oh, yeah, because they got the over-under.
Yeah, I'm going to give you half a point because you got half a Mage Lock.
I'll take half of it.
All right, question number 3. The Pistol Wraith's chain attack is called what?
Oh, man. Mark 1 or Mark 2 or Mark 3?
Mark 3. What is the Mark 3 chain attack called? Anybody? Wow.
Yeah.
I'm doing all Minty.
Eh,
Go for it, Dallas.
Death Chill.
It is Death Chill.
Oh, nice.
Good job.
Yeah.
So that's a point and a half for Dallas. He's kicking your asses, you guys.
Yeah.
Kind of expected.
Way to go. Question number 4. What
Don't
is
let me win.
what
We
is
don't need to let you win.
they're not letting you. They are this bad. What is the butcher's full name? You don't have to worry about his rank or anything, but go for it, Dallas.
Ursus Zoctivier.
Oh, there it is. Whoop whoop.
Orsis Zoctivier.
Yeah, I didn't think you guys would get that one.
No.
You're gonna be like,
Zoctivier.
his name is Red Asshole. He comes and kills me.
His name is I'm going for an ice
His
cream.
name is 15 Mad Dogs. Question number 5. Shail Battle Mage's Force Barrier does what? George.
Oh, this is it's the one where they get to decide the direction of the blast damage when it comes towards
No,
them.
incorrect.
Oh.
Incorrect. Dallas.
+2 defense.
+2 defense, and I was looking for no blast as well.
Oh, it's no blast.
You get a second half point,
Oh, no
so
blast.
now you get 1 full
3.
point. So now you're at 3 points because that was another half. Question number 6. This is a good one. You guys ready? You're all in your buzzers. What are the 4 reds in the P3 range?
And
Dallas.
Scorn Red, Cater Red Highlight, and uh-oh.
Uh-oh. I like that one.
Hang on, let me look at my desk. Oh my gosh, do I really not know?
There's one more red in the P3 range.
Red ink.
It is red ink.
Oh.
There you
Oh,
go.
that was tricky.
4 points. It was
Tricky.
a bit of trick. That's why I said range. I didn't say.
Yeah, a little tricky.
See, now do you want to do all of them? Because there's Murderous Magenta,
No,
there's
Specific-
Carnal Pink, there's Sanguine Base,
Yes.
there's...
Sanguine Highlight.
No? Okay.
Totally. All right. Question number 7. What is the secret ingredient in 2-brush blending? George.
Spit.
It's spit. Question number 8. How many arc node boxes on a hurricane? Joe, I'm going to have to give it to George.
6.
No. Dallas, you buzzed in second. What's your answer?
4.
It is 4. It is 4. Question number 9. What
I
are-
was going to say 6, thanks.
Question number 9. What are the bonuses for a free strike? George?
If you're doing a free strike, you get +2 to hit and boosted damage.
Boost. There you go. So there you go. You got a point. You're catching up. You're doing really well.
Well,
Yeah.
I have to know about something.
Yeah. It might as well be the rules.
Might as well.
All right. Here is the
I
Minty.
break him enough.
I had to channel Minty tonight because he's been busy. He hasn't been able to handle the Minty Fresh questions the last couple of weeks. The Minty Fresh question this week is, what is Mulg the Ancient's Animus? Okay, Dallas.
Runebreaker?
It is not Runebreaker. Anybody else got an answer?
No.
It is.
No.
It's Arcane Suppression. Arcane
Okay.
Suppression. So that's it for the.
Hang on. I'm going to text Souls. Give me a second.
We're
gonna
changing
change
it.
in the next
We're
5
changing it to
I'm
Rune.
just going to change that.
Yeah, we're just
I'm
gonna
gonna change that.
Damn it. Well, it doesn't matter because either way, we're going to declare the winner for this evening is the one and only Dallas Kemp. Woo!
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice work. And no, they did not let you win.
No, we're this
They
bad.
are that
I didn't,
terrible.
I didn't even get a single one right that time.
All right, so and who on the chat? How the chat guys doing?
I think his buzzer's
They did
stuck.
great. Shikaku, I think, is probably the one who got the most correct.
Except for his last
Fastest.
answer, which is the worst one yet.
Yeah, that's terrible.
All right, well, that's it for tonight, guys. I want to thank Dallas so much for joining us on the cast. Dallas, it was an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
Gentlemen, it was awesome.
Thank you, Dallas.
Let me just
Thank
go.
you for having me.
We'll just go through all the little bit of upkeep before we let go for this evening. So first off, I want to remind everybody that MooseCon is this weekend. We will be live streaming all Sunday.
Yeah.
You can watch us play games all day long. We've got 6 teams battling it out. We've got one person will win the first ever King of the Con award for all the different things that they do. If you're coming to MooseCon, remember you need one model that you painted yourself.
Yep.
And it doesn't have to be good.
Oh, no. In fact, if it's not good, that's better.
That might help to be
Yes.
horrible. It might help to be good. It could be both. You never know. You might get some bonus points
Make
for
sure
both.
that you also have a model you assembled yourself.
Yeah, you might want to have a model you assembled. Yeah. Or at least is
painted.
assembled or painted.
Is assembled. I would like all of your models to be assembled.
to
please.
a degree. What? I just blue tack on heads. That's all I do.
That's perfect. Blue tack works.
Yeah, blue tack and a head on a base. That's okay, right? PG. Can I use that for competition?
Skaggy.
All right. Secondly, I want to thank the Wizards Tower because they're going to be hosting MooseCon this weekend,
Absolutely.
and they're also the guys who make sure that that we can do this. And of course, Muson Minis, who they are the reason why you all know we exist. If we didn't have Muson
Ain't that
Minis,
the truth?
we'd still only have like 3 listeners, and one of them would be Jason's mom.
Yes.
It's true.
Next week's episode, what have we got coming up?
Scott, I believe, is coming on to talk about the OTC
Ooh,
because
dang.
all the lists are now in. We are all locked into whatever horrible things are going to happen to
You're
us.
going to be playing in the OTC.
I know.
You're going to get just eaten by sharks.
Oh, my goodness.
You're going to be in the fun bracket before you walk in the door.
So normally when you go to an event, you have to play that first round before you know whether you're in the fun bracket. I can just be in the fun bracket from here.
You're just walking in.
I'm just
with a big-
I'm just walking in.
George is the walking fun bracket.
I think we should
That's
get a
what my wife
T-shirt
calls
that
me.
just says the fun
The
bracket.
fun bracket.
The fun bracket.
So I want to thank everybody.
It should say, how about the fun bracket starts here?
Yeah, there we go.
I like it. The fun
Done
bracket
and
starts
done.
here.
All right, everybody. Maelstrom, thank you so much for
Thank you.
once again handling the chat and making sure that
No problem.
the questions all got asked. Thank you, everybody in the chat, for joining again tonight and your awesome questions.
And making sure they stick around for Troll Blood Scrum afterwards.
Don't forget about that. And don't forget that Deaf Head Dice has been working on an app that we all know and love. And you
Warp
should
Awards Battle Reporter.
get the
Yeah.
Battle Reporter. Report
Everybody
your
get
battles.
your reports in so that we can get all that yummy data and see who's winning, who's losing, and who is the most awesome.
That's right. Finally, I want to thank Dallas once again for joining us. I want to thank PP for making such an awesome game
that we get to talk about
that we
every
get to
week.
talk about every week and
more,
enjoy.
and more importantly, play.
And of course, last but not least,
Or paint.
Or paint.
or paint, or paint,
And
whatever,
paint.
and paint, and paint,
And paint.
And I think that's it for us, hey guys.
I think that's it.
All right, say goodnight, everybody.
Good night,
Good night,
everybody.
everybody.
Dice down.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Dice down.
Moose Machine and This Death Clock Has 60 Minutes is a proud part of the Muse on Minis network. Podcasts go online every Thursday morning. You can watch the show live every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern on Twitch and keep in touch with us on our Facebook page. Just Google Moose Machine. If you can't find us, you're doing the internet wrong.